we are at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. This is an interview with Professor Antonio Borges, our greatest specialist in the field of assistive technology. Professor Antonio, I ask you to talk about your work in the field of assistive technology, your achievements, your main programs to help the disabled have sort of open doors for him. So please tell us about your experience.
Well, it's an interesting story. I've never been in contact with assistive technology since in 1993. I was given a class on computer graphics. That was my main specialty in this university. And in the first row, there was a blind person, Marcelo Pimentel. It was a surprise for me. First, because it was a course on computer graphics. That's a completely visual subject. And then I moved to the student and asked him, well, what's your name? My name is Marcelo. Well, you know, this is a class of computer graphics. It's a visual subject. I suppose you're blind. Yes, I'm blind. Are you interested really to make this, to participate of this class? Yes, I'm very happy to be here. And this was really a surprise for me. I didn't imagine why a person who couldn't see would think about this opportunity or this moment. Well, I just didn't know what to do. I told him, well, I don't know how to follow our contact during this class because there's a big amount of visual things. Let me ask you some questions, some initial questions. Well, this is a computer course, naturally, and you use the computer. Yes, I use the computer. Look, the year was 1993. In this time, yes, in this time, computers were much less complicated than they are now. For example, they hadn't soundboards. They weren't able to produce sound. Well, they produced beeps or some things like this, but sound, music, no. Computers, especially small computers, didn't produce sound. And then I asked, well, you use the computer, but how do you do this? Well, professor, I do the following. I know where the keys are. I know as A, S, D, etc. And I put my fingers and I begin pressing the keys, and I produce programs, and I can use a text editor. But look, you are unable to know if you are doing the right things. How do you know that you are typing correctly? No, I'm not sure. I need another person to be with me, possibly my father, possibly my sister, attending me with this. And doesn't it borrow you? Naturally, I will bother you. Yes, but I haven't any other things to do. But how do you communicate in university with your teachers? Yes, this is easy. I'm very proficient in Braille, and then I can write in Braille and read in Braille very normally. But my professors, my teachers, are not able. And I told him that I wasn't able to read it and write. And How do you communicate? Well, very simply. I wrote something in Braille. And then my teacher asked me, what have I wrote? And then I talk what is, that's it. I talk about what is written. And this, let me say, is convenient. Not adequate, but convenient. And this is the way am making course. Fortunately, I haven't been failed in any disciplines.
So, as far as I can understand, Professor Antonio, so far you didn't have such close contact with handicapped people. It was the first time.
This is the first time.
So you had
Me
the
and
dimension of the problem.
me, I haven't the dimension of the problem. Absolutely, I didn't know what to do.
You, as far as I can understand, you have seen the problem, but it was the first time for you.
Yes, this is my first time, and I was not sure about what to do. But if my colleagues succeed to attend him, I suppose that I was able. But in my particular case, I had a previous involvement in constructing hardware, in constructing basic software, and I saw in this particular moment an opportunity to build something new, something for this particular person. Well, my class continued, and then I almost forgot the student. The class followed, and I I was only thinking how to write in the with chalk, how to write. I on the blackboard. Yes, I decided to say everything very slowly. Naturally, I know this has not absolutely any importance. You have to say anything, but you not have to. You don't have to speak slowly. It's just boring. Boring. It is boring to speak slowly. I passed near a stand of newspapers, and then I saw a newspaper talking about computers now can sing. I was very interested. Sing, cantar. I thought, well, if computers can sing, they can talk. Then I bought the newspaper, and there was a small explanation about this, and they talked about something they called the air-to-air interface. I didn't know what is this. Now I know this is a conversion system that produces a move from digital sound, digital signals into sound. And then I tried to build such as interface. This is the original interface. It is connected in the old parallel port, and this takes signals from the parallel port and translates to analogic signal. Then I borrowed a soundboard from a friend because these equipments didn't exist in Brazil. And then I was able to record A, B, C, D, and put each of these sounds on files, on separate files. And I produced a small program that when you typed a key, this particular file was chosen, and the sound was moved to the parallel port, and then the parallel port translated it in sound. It is very simple, very crude idea, but with this idea, in 1 week, Marcelo could type and know exactly what is being typed. And if you have a text inside the computer, he can spell the letters of this file. In other words, a barrier was destroyed.
You overcame the obstacles.
Yes, once this problem has been solved, naturally, I was moved into a more sophisticated research, and I created, after some months, the first synthesizer of the Portuguese language. And so Marcelo was able to read and write in Portuguese and could make examinations, uh, uh, make a very good contact with their colleagues, work together. Well, the life of Marcelo in the university has an upgrade that is really incredible.
Professor, so if we could sum up these special achievements, let me see if I could understand. I mean, for people who are not well acquainted with computers and so on, as far as I could understand, for this special student who was blind, Marcelo, you could transform a language which was inaccessible for him, I mean, because it was visual language, you turned it into an oral and hearing language so that he could understand. Could you sum up like this? You gave him an access to computer language through hearing. Is this?
Yes, this is true. Look, in other countries, this solution has been used, but for me it was absolutely new. Nobody in Brazil has used this before, and especially in Portuguese, because there was no systems already existent that were able to speak Portuguese. And then, the solution was really original, for at least for Portuguese. Well, but this is not a complete solution. Dosvox was a system that has been created after this particular moment, that was the very beginning. And Dosvox is really what really moved thousands and thousands of blind people into a new world, a world of communication. And I suppose this...
You open doors for them.
Yes. Let me talk a bit about what happened before this. Well, Marcelo was a student, a computer science student, and he was prepared to deal with problems related to computers and so on. But in this time, 1993, nobody in Brazil that was blind was able to use computers. And then the dialogue that computers used to communicate with people were absolutely not accessible, even if translated into sound.
Oh, that's great.
Because the dialogue that computers talk is a kind of particular dialogue. And then you decided to create a system with a particular dialogue that was very suitable for the limitation of a people, for people that were blind, not only on the matter of hearing or listening or something like this, but to comprehend what the computer is doing, to give orders to the computer, and the computer was able to attend to the orders the user, the person is giving to him. Then we created a particular solution that not only talked Portuguese, but only talked Portuguese way of asking and answering things. Let's say something that is semantically comprehensible for Brazilian people.
And nowadays, Antonio, do you have an idea of how many users Dosvox has, your system has?
Dosvox is really a very successful system, and I suppose because it talks not only Portuguese, it talks Brazilian way of thinking.
Oh, that's great. And how many users are?
I suppose 80,000 people, almost 100,000 people.
And I think one particular feature of the Dosvox is that it's sort of free of charge. So any blind people, anyone can access Dosvox without paying for it.
Yes, after some difficulties in the beginning because there's a hardware involved.
Did you have financial support from somebody?
Very little, very little. What is interesting about to say about Dosvox that it was almost being produced by students and by myself.
And did you, for equipment and so on, did you pay for?
Yes, the students normally have some grants or something like this, but we hadn't really a big financial about this production, and it's really a product of love. We like we are doing.
Oh, that's great. It's a really idealistic project and achievement, and so you, as far as I can see, it has great perspectives for the future. What do you think about?
Well, in this particular moment, Dosvox is used very broadly in Brazil. Brazil is a very big country, and I suppose every state of Brazil has more than, let's say, 1,000 users. Nowadays, Dosvox has more than 100 programs. It's really a system, a big system, including access to internet, facilities to make records and music, many, let's say, useful utilities for daily life, calculator, agenda, and so on. Well, but this set of programs is almost what a median blind person in Brazil needs. I know that nowadays there are many equivalent or more sophisticated programs, for example, JAWS, NVDA, and many others systems, but those programs are in reality not equivalent to Dosvox, because Dosvox talks, let's say, a particular dialogue with the person. And it's not simply a screen reader. It is really a communication system that it's much more comfortable, much more friendly to a person that is using the system. And what is interesting is that many people not blind use Dosvox. For example, many dyslexic people use Dosvox because Dosvox is able to present lines and read them. And this is very convenient for a dyslexic person who has the text highlighted and it's easy to then to follow what's been talked. There are many people who have other kind of disabilities. For example, some kinds of autistics manifestations are adequate to use with Dosvox. Uh, Down syndrome is sometimes adequate. Manifestations are adequate to use with Dosvox. Well, the system is very far from its original goal, and the amount of people that use Dosvox is really very huge. More than 100,000 people use Dosvox nowadays.
And not all of them are blind.
Not all of them are blind, but I suppose uh, the great majority is blind or low vision. The last versions of Dosvox includes a magnification system that when something is being read by the computer, it is also shown in big letters, and this eases very much the low vision people.
And what about your other achievements, like microphonics, for instance? Could you sum up for us?
Dosvox is our main system, the system that has more a big number of users, but we have other systems that have been created. Look, Dosvox is 23 years old. After this 20, those amount of years, many programs have been created to others, to other kind of disabilities. For example, you have microphonics or microphonics in English. That is a system that you can command the computer using uh, little sounds like, for example, or with little movements of the finger, or even the last versions of microphonics, you can command it using only the eye movements.
Or through the blinks of the eye?
Yeah, blinks of the eyes, or simply movement. We have many possibilities with this program. It's the goal of the system is to allow that a person with almost no movement in the body, a person that can't say anything, can move any part of the body, or people that is severely disabled can use with a plenitude the computer.
And I would also like to ask you, Professor, about the response you have from disabled people. If you could pick one of the many disabled people, I mean blind, tetraplegic, and so on, that were benefited by your systems, could you tell us about a special experience of someone who told you something like, "Oh, Professor Antonio, you really helped me. You sort of opened the doors of the world for me." Would you choose one person to, to enrich this conversation in your experience?
I think that I'm a very lucky person. I had the opportunity to use my experience in computing, in computer science, to produce, let's say, 10 or more programs that are adequate to be used by disabled people. And the response is almost every every place,
Very
people.
successful, I suppose.
Thank you, Professor. I'm very happy now. My life has been incredibly improved. I now I can now write, read. I can use the internet. I even more interesting things like I got married with a person, or
through internet.
yeah, through internet.
Somebody who could find a partner through internet.
Many people. Many people. I made a small statistics some years ago. I suppose that more than 50 people, blind people, married through Dosvox. They knew a person, sometimes blind, sometimes not blind. They engaged and so on, and got married sometimes. And it's really I'm very happy with these results. Well, thank you for your attention. My English is not so good, but I suppose it was sufficient for you to have an idea of what has been doing in Brazil. I suppose nowadays, thanks to Dosvox and Microphonics, Motrix, Bradifácil, and many systems that have been created in those years, in the last 23 years, many thousands of people are being much more productive, happy, and so on. And the future is let's say beautiful. I'm very happy because I am always creating something new. It's my life.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor.